Thank you for being here.
You're welcome.
Yeah. So, ladies, I am just thrilled to introduce you to someone who has been a huge impact. I can't wait even to tell you how much of an impact you've had on my life, Dr. Ronda.
Oh,
Like, seriously. She has been a huge impact on my life. Like, I honestly feel like you're the reason I am the doctor I am today.
well, thank you.
Like, seriously. Like, when I first started, um, down this path, I had no idea like the breadth of of understanding that we can have when we're looking at lab work and understanding health and looking at patients and really doing a proper intake and things like that.
Yeah.
Dr. Rhonda Nelson is a teacher of mine. I've been studying with her for, gosh, I think I came to you in 2008,
Probably.
7 or 8. Yeah.
Hmm. Long time.
A long time. Yeah. And
Yeah.
so, so Dr. Rhonda looks at health through a lens that most doctors don't look through. And so to be able to have the opportunity to learn from her has been a tremendous benefit, not just to myself, but to my patients. Uh, she is, a trusted leader in the wellness arena and is on a mission to change the way that healthcare practitioners deliver functional care to their patients.
Yeah.
She's a nationally known speaker and a passionate author. She continues to refine her clinical skills and works with patients virtually. She provides support for clinicians through her online educational platform, and she is a well respected for her practical and down to earth marketing strategies. So she's a brilliant woman. She's mostly in the market of helping practitioners right now, but I'm just saying that it doesn't matter what side of the fence you're on.
Right.
I think you're a wonderful woman, and anyone who feels called to listen to your words and to heed your guidance, I am so happy to be able to share your words with people.
Well, thank you. That was quite the introduction. Thank you very much. I don't know what to say.
You
Thank
don't
you.
have to. You don't have to. I think that it's especially for healthcare practitioners. And I know you already know this, but especially for healthcare practitioners, that sometimes we feel really, really small in this world of
Yeah.
dysfunction. And I know I've felt that way of myself plenty of times. And just to be able to express to you that all these little sprinkles of wisdom that you've been spreading throughout the however many years it is I've known you and before and beyond that, actually is making a huge difference. And it's not just, again, like I said earlier, it's not just making a difference in my life. You've actually taught me things that I can share with so many other patients and help patients step into their own well-being in a greater
Right.
way. Like,
Right.
that's exponential brilliance that you're sharing. So thank you.
You're welcome. I'm so glad it's making an impact. And that's the whole goal is that, we
Right.
talk about like paying it forward. It's the same for me. Like I was, when I started out as a clinician, you graduate school and you think you know everything. And what you really know is nothing. And so you
Yeah.
get out into the real world, and I didn't have anyone. I didn't have a mentor. I didn't have anyone to teach me. And I really had to learn so much of it the hard way. I taught myself and I made a lot of mistakes along the way, but that, I guess that's why I'm so passionate about helping other clinicians, is because I didn't have that. I wish that I'd had it. It would have made the runway so much shorter if I'd had that kind of help. So
Mm.
that's why I love doing what I'm doing. So it makes me really happy to know that it's impacting your clients and patients. That makes me happy.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. I'm curious how you got into your line of work.
Well, there's a super long story. You can read the long-ish version on my website. But the short, kind of abbreviated story is that I grew up eating a really horrible standard American diet full of Twinkies and ding dongs and Little Debbie oatmeal cookies and mint chip ice cream, my favorites. And that's just how we grew up. So, my family, we were not healthy. I was a chubby child. And I'm the oldest of 5 children. And when I got married when I was 18 and had my first child at 20, and I loved being a mom, but horrible delivery, very, 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 very colicky first baby. Wasn't able to nurse past 6 weeks. I couldn't produce enough
Mm.
milk for a rat. I mean, like,
Oh.
not, because my diet was so bad, but I didn't know about all that. I just had no
Mm.
idea. So, fast forward, child number 2, child number 3. And then by the time my diet kind of started to change in the middle in there somewhere, but not very much. And then when my oldest daughter was 10, she was diagnosed with terminal bone cancer. And that is a game changer for any parent. It doesn't matter. Like it's just, it turns you everything on its head. And so I already kind of knew that there was, you need to eat better, but I lived in a very tiny town in Northern California. So I had no idea. I didn't have anybody to teach me. Again, didn't have anyone to show me the way. So when she got diagnosed with cancer, I thought, okay, there's got to be something to this because old people get cancer, not
Mhm.
10-year-olds. There's
Yeah.
something super wrong with this whole program right here. This is not working for me. So I became that mama bear that just went after her, whatever I needed to learn in order to protect my little cub. And that took me on this journey. I was in business, small business accounting. So I was working with small business owners
Mm.
and in a variety of, niches. And I left all that and went into alternative medicine because I knew that chemotherapy was the option.
Mm.
And although we did that, I knew that there were other options. And so fast forward, my oldest daughter, they said she would die. They said she would never live much longer than about 9 months after diagnosis.
Wow.
It's been over 20 years, 25 years now, and she has 4 children. They said she would never have children. And she's kind of like a walking miracle. She does have a little bit of a bionic arm, but, I'd rather have a living child with a bionic arm than no child at all. So it was all worth the fight, all of it 100% worth it. But that's the power of understanding how your body works and then doing what we need to do to feed and nourish and support it because cancer is only a symptom of
Yeah.
a malfunctioning liver and a long history of stress and a poor diet and poor digestion and all those things that go into it. So
Mm.
cancer is just like that final white flag, but she got cancer because I didn't know those things going in. Like I ate a
Mhm.
horrible diet when I was pregnant with her. So, you look back and there's no guilt there. So I'm okay, but you
Sure.
look back and you go, "Oh, yeah, I definitely would have done that differently. I would have
Yeah,
had a
yeah.
different outcome had I done it differently." But it's okay because I got the blessing of her being part of my life still. And so I'm super happy about that.
And how who you've become because of it too. Yeah.
Yeah, she's the reason. She's 100% the
Mm.
reason why I do
Mm.
what I do. Hands down 100%. I would still be crunching numbers, which funny thing is I've actually ended up kind of going back to my roots that way. So I got the clinical thing figured out. And now I work with practitioners to help them build thriving, scalable businesses using my business knowledge. And then I can put the clinical piece right on top of it. So it's kind of like a little perfect trifecta. But yeah, I started by having to solve a really big problem, and that's how I got into this.
Wow, that's amazing. That's
Yeah.
so cool. And she has kids herself. I know you've had other things with your other children. Like for instance, I remember the story about the Axe deodorant and your son.
Yes. Oh my gosh. Tell you. And those are the things that you just learn. So as I got more into this alternative functional world of healthcare, I started to realize that there's a lot of bad information out there. So Dr. Google is the worst educational university you could ever have. There are some things that are good, but there's a lot of it that's not good. And some of the information out there is actually incredibly harmful. One of the things that I found out early on was that body care products can be laced with chemicals, toxins, and things we know as a pheromone, or in other words, like a xenohormone, a false kind of a hormone. And they load these products with them. And in order to make them have a desired outcome, like women's face creams, that like wrinkle removing, youth serum,
Mm.
I'm going to look ageless beauty, all those have hormones in them. How do you think they get that result? That's how they do it. So the Axe products, I don't know if you obviously know, but if your community knows, your patients, your viewers, Axe products like Axe deodorant, Axe body wash, they have like, body spray, they have shampoo, all that loaded with these hormones. And so my youngest son, when he was in high school, he was using this is before I knew all this. He was using these Axe products and he started getting so mean. I mean, mean and strong. I mean, beyond puberty boy muscle strong. Like punch a hole in the wall and hurt me like I'm scared kind of strong.
Wow.
And I thought, this is way out of character for this child. He is not this person by personality. Something is not right. So I decided to do a saliva test on him, and he had more estrogen than I did and more
Wow.
testosterone than the lab could even measure. So I had to
Wow.
figure out where it was coming from. And sure enough, it was these Axe products. So don't use Axe. They're bad news.
Wow. Man,
Yeah.
yeah, that's such a crazy story. And it's not just acts, right?
There's a lot of them. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yep.
it's everywhere.
Anything that says what you want to look for, things that say wrinkle in women, for women, anything wrinkle reducing, age defying youth serum, firming, toning, brightening, all of those words. Those are key words for the presence of hormones. So, or
Yeah.
anything that kind of gives you that feel of like that sex appeal, like it's going to make you sexy.
Mm.
It's going to make you, it's that's the Axe products with these kids. Like it's I'm going to make you feel like a man because it's building that testosterone like crazy.
Yeah.
So
Wow.
that's why.
Yeah. Well, awesome. Well, as you know, we are on the ultimate biohack for women. Personally, I believe that the ultimate biohack for women is our ability to tap into and listen to and trust our intuition, our inner wisdom, and to be
Yeah.
connected to that
Yeah.
inner source within us that allows us to accomplish great things and to live a purposeful life. You can take all the supplements in the world, and if you're not really tuning into that aspect of yourself, yeah, it may or may not get to where you want to go, right?
Exactly. Yep.
Yeah. And
Yep.
oh, I'm sorry, go ahead. Yeah.
No, you go, 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 go.
Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah. So, that's kind of what the ultimate biohack for women is about. And I also love to share with our listeners all different kinds of hacks that we can do for ourselves to up level our well-being, to improve the function, to improve our energy, to improve our hormones, and to improve our lives. So I would just love it if you'd give us some of your personal hacks that you do for yourself and you recommend to your practitioners, in the world of women's wellness.
I love that you're doing this because it's so needed. And there's, again, kind of back to Dr. Google, there's so much bad information out there, take this
Mm.
pill or do this thing and you're going to have all these amazing results. And it doesn't often happen that way. There's some work that we have to put into this, but it doesn't have to be difficult. So I would say the first thing for me is always going to be self-care. Now, I say that because I'm not always really good at it, but it's a priority for me. And the reason is as women, we are, I think, culturally, like we just are trained that we take care of people. So when you have children and you're the mother, you're making sure that all your kids have everything they need and your spouse has what he needs, and you're running the show, and you got the house and you got the groceries and you're making meals and you're running them here, doing this, doing the thing. And who gets left behind? Me,
Yeah, that's
as the
right.
mom. So it's switching that mindset that says, wait a minute, I can't be of any use to the rest of you at my greatest potential. I can't serve all of you at my highest potential if I'm not filling up my vessel, if
Mm.
I'm not taking care of me. And that might mean that one night a week, you get a babysitter and you just go to your favorite coffee shop and you read your favorite book and you just sow and pour and love yourself. So it's that self care, whatever that looks like. And it might be making sure that you're taking your supplements, or it might be making sure that you go for a walk every day. But whatever it is that fills your cup, that self care is absolutely crucial. And it's a hard thing to do because we just tend to want to be caregivers and we want to give to everyone else first. And we are the ones that get neglected. So I always say that has to be at the top of the list.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. And it's very clear that you're doing your self-care. Your skin looks amazing.
Thank you.
It does. I'm like, wow, look at
So
her
I will
go.
say I will say that on that note, and so I get compliments on my skin all the time. But I will tell you, this is one of the things that I started when I was probably 20, 21. I started in some of your, listeners might know. There was a cosmetic company that was a rival to Mary Kay Cosmetics, and it was called Jafra. And the
Mm.
oldies are going to know Jafra. Oh my gosh. I don't know how I got this. It was a multi-level company and I got hooked up with Jafra. And they had these body care products, and their signature thing was this royal jelly milk balm thing. But I learned back then, I learned the importance of washing my face every single night. And I guess that kind of falls under that self care, right? I
Mhm.
learned how before bed, and it doesn't matter if it's 2 a.m., because I live in Vegas and maybe we went to a show and then we went out to dinner afterwards. Bad lifestyle, but I don't do it all the time. But let's just say it's 2 a.m. and I get home. I will not get in bed without washing my face. I don't care if the house
Nice.
is on fire. If the house is on fire, excuse me, I'll be out in a minute. I got to wash my face. And so I always wash my face. And that's part of that self care. But that's just been kind of a ritual that I've had for so many years. And it's paying off as I've gotten older. My skin looks pretty good. So thank you for the compliment, but that's my secret.
I like it. That's an easy one.
It's an easy one. So,
Yeah.
okay, let me think. How many do you want? How many like
Oh, you
hacks
know
do you
what?
want?
Whatever. Yeah, no, it's all good. Maybe if there's something that you could speak to around hormones. I know most of my
Yeah.
listeners are kind of in the 40 to 60 range, I would think.
Oh, yeah. Rough water. That's rough water. So, okay, let's talk about that. Yeah, that perimenopause, menopause transition is super bumpy. And always say it's like taking off in an airplane, and it's turbulent. And some parts of the ride are not turbulent and other parts are super turbulent. And sometimes you get on an airplane where you're literally like going up and you're dropping, and it's really, really, really rough. But the good news is that what goes up must come down. So, with the right intervention during that flight, during that perimenopause, menopause flight, with the right kind of support, intervention, lifestyle, it doesn't have to be so bumpy. So, one of the things that as women we are more prone to this than men are, and it affects our physiology much different, and that is the effects of stress. So,
Mm.
stress is the number one thing that will cause accelerated aging. So not only does it age us faster, we actually go into what's called catabolism. That means that our body is breaking down faster than it's rebuilding. So we're going at a deficit every single day when stress is present. But the thing is, we can't get away from stress. Like it's not going to go away, especially 2020
Right.
stress. Like it's
That's
not
right.
going away. And it's been a rough year for many people. Depression is up. There's lots of negative effects we've seen as a result of what we've experienced this year. However, there are a group of herbs that are known as adaptogens, and these adaptogenic herbs do just what their name applies. They help implies. They help us adapt to stress. So it doesn't make the stress go away, but it makes it so that instead of me feeling that chest tightness or feeling like anxious in my head or depressed or my heart racing, these adaptogens help me so that I can respond rather than react. So, one of the key things during this biohack for this tumultuous 40 to 60-year period of time are adaptogens all the way. And my favorite adaptogen is ashwagandha.
Mm.
Hands down, my favorite. My second favorite is one called rhodiola. Those are my two all time favorite adaptogens, and they can make a world of difference, especially if you're suffering from hot flashes, night sweats, memory loss, all that stuff. Those two herbs can make a tremendous difference, and they just help keep you calm. And when we're under stress, our skin ages, our organs age faster, our muscles atrophy faster, we can't think because the brain gets washed in cortisol. So having those adaptogens on board is a huge game changer. as we age, really throughout life, but especially as we start to, enter that final quarter of our life, so to speak. Those adaptogens are make a huge difference.
Yes, thank you for that. I know. I'm a ashwagandha addict.
I love that. I know. I'm raising my hand on that one. I love ashwagandha. I love love that one. It's my absolute favorite. In fact, the studies show that the longer you take it, the more beneficial it
Oh,
is. So I have some patients that take it and they say, "Okay, I feel better. I'm not taking it anymore." I'm like, "Don't do that. Don't
keep
stop.
going.
Keep going. Just reduce the dose." So maybe you only need 1 or 2 tablets a day rather than 4. So just reduce the dose, but keep it going because it's more effective. The longer you take it, the calmer you get. By the time we die, we won't care because we're so calm. That's what our goal is, right?
That's awesome. That's really
Uh,
cool. I mean, just speaking of the 2020 thing, this has kind of been on my mind a bit because clearly we're going through a lot of stress, and
mhm,
clearly it's a opportunity for transformation in so many ways. And
mhm.
as humanity across the globe, we're all trying to figure it out. Like, what is it that we're having to, like, look at our shadow self, I think, in a really big
Right,
way.
right.
And within that, there's a lot of healing that's being called to be looked at, or be with. And I'm a big believer in the way we think affects our body, and how our body heals or doesn't heal or
Yeah.
becomes ill. And are you familiar with Messages from the Body by
Yes.
Dr.
Love.
Lincoln?
Yes, yes, yes.
Oh, so
Love
yeah,
that
so I'm
work.
I'm like a big fan of that book.
Mhm.
Yeah, and so when we look at autoimmunity specifically, we're on an energetic, emotional level. We're really looking at the the way that we beat ourselves up, the way that I would say across the board, 99%, if not 100, of my autoimmune patients have a very self-depreciating attitude on
Yeah.
some level. It may not be
Yeah.
conscious,
Yeah.
but it's there, like guaranteed. I'll find it every time.
Mhm.
And I'm just curious if you feel like this whole experience we've been going through with COVID and the lockdown and all this stuff, do you feel like there's going to be like a rise in things like autoimmunity?
I don't know. I don't know if it's going to look like autoimmune. I don't know what it's going to look like, but I am
Yeah.
going to say yes to that if for no
Mm.
other reason because the stress level has been so high. And I don't know about you or your listeners, your viewers, but there have been points, many points that I have just said I'm just not going to watch TV anymore. I'm
Oh,
not going to get on social media as much or at all for a while. I need a break. My brain is too overwhelmed, and I find that when the information comes in, it makes me not feel at my best energetically. Like it changes the way I'm interacting with the world and more importantly with the people around me. So I start
yes.
getting snappy or not mean. I'm not a mean by nature. I'm just not that way, but I'll find myself like festering over something, a little thing, and it just festers and it festers and it festers. And then I just get madder and madder and madder. And usually it's directed at my spouse, my husband. And then I'll say,
Yeah.
I'm mad at you. And he says, like this morning, he said, why? I said, because blah, 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 blah. And it was something so stupid, but it's
Yeah.
because I get overwhelmed. So I think that energetic, we have to be just as conscious of what's going on internally, but we also have to be very aware of what's happening out there to protect us
Yeah.
so that we're not getting the wheels spinning up here in a way that's going to perpetuate illness in the body. So it's just as
Yeah.
important to kind of guard what comes in, whether it's through your eyes, your ears. What are you seeing? What are you
Mhm.
feeling? What are you sensing? The people that you're around, you know? So,
Yes.
yes, I do believe that we are going to see, we're going to, I think it's just going to look different, but I don't, it could be autoimmune, but I do think we're going to start seeing some more physical ramifications or outcomes based on what we've gone through this year.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know if it'll be autoimmune either. I've just been kind of feeling like some things will definitely arise because we're in
Yeah,
such a tumultuous time. And yeah, totally. Excuse me. I I often invite my patients to do a media fast for 7 days, and it's amazing the resistance that I get. that
Yep.
I get to that. It's
Mhm.
crazy. And have you ever
Mhm.
seen the movie Social Dilemma?
No, I have not watched it because
Oh
I
my
again, this was one of the things for me. I said, I don't know that that's going to be good for me. I don't know I think that that's going to cause me some turmoil a little bit. And so I've not chosen to watch it, but everybody's watched it and basically said it's the same thing that we all know. And that is that
you already
social
know.
media is a problem.
You
And we
already
all
know.
know that. Yeah.
Yeah, you already know.
Yeah.
Yeah, you don't have to watch it to know what they're saying. You really don't.
Exactly.
But when your head gets wrapped around it, it will totally blow your mind. Like for me,
Mhm.
I'm not I don't we don't even have TV. I watch Netflix if I want to watch a movie or something,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
and on for social media, I'm not on social media. It might seem like I am because I pre-schedule posts and do my little thing for 1 hour on Mondays and there you go. Occasionally I'll respond to people in my group, but I'm not on there flipping. Like that's just not my thing
No,
because
me
I
neither.
feel the impact that has on my
Mhm.
psychology and my physiology. And yeah, you're right. And it's so pervasive. It's almost like you can't get away from it. But the truth of it is you can.
Yeah. And it's just a tool, and it's a good tool if you use the tool right. If I have a hammer and I just go start hitting everything I see with a hammer, well, that's not the right tool. I need to not use a hammer if I'm walking next to my car, but I do need to use a hammer if I need a nail handled, right?
Yeah.
So social
Right.
media is just a tool. And once we learn how to use it properly and use it correctly, then it doesn't create that kind of stress. And what I really try and do as much as I can is minimize my stress,
Yeah.
minimize the stress, because I like feeling happy more than I like feeling grumpy or irritated. At the end of the
Yeah.
day, I like being happy, and
I do too.
I'm a glass half full kind of girl. I'm probably a glass three-fourths full kind of girl. And I like that feeling of knowing that it's going to be okay even if the world is a little crappy right now. I don't I can make the choice as to whether what's happening out here in the world is going to affect me or not. That's my
Yeah.
choice.
That is a choice.
It's a choice. It's 100%
Mhm.
choice, just like happy is a
Mhm.
choice. Happy is a choice.
Mhm.
And so for me to blame that I'm unhappy on someone else, that they don't have control over my feelings. I
That's
do.
right.
And so I get to choose that. So by like not being on social media as much, or taking those adaptogens, or making sure that I'm guarding what's going in my eyes and my ears, like the media, rah, rah,
Mhm.
rah, rah. No, it doesn't make
Yeah.
me happy. So no, I'm not doing it because I like being happy, period.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, it's really useful reminders to really also pay attention to maybe what your habits are in your day-to-day life because it could be for someone who's not aware, it could be hard to connect. Well, I was on Facebook for a little while and now I'm unhappy.
Yeah. Yeah. And it happens if you start paying attention, you'll start to realize that there's a direct correlation, but we get so programmed, to do the scroll thing. And it's just like, I live in Las Vegas, and this past weekend we had company in from out of town. And so they wanted to go to the strip. So we go down there, and it's the only time we ever go is if there's people in town. So we go
Sure.
down, and my friend said, I'm going to play $40 in the slot machines. I said, okay, I'll play $40 in the slot machines. I can't even remember the last time it's probably been 20 years since I put money in a slot machine. I said, okay, I'll do it. And it's mind-numbingly addictive. And they've created the social media platforms, the scroll. They actually use the same
Ah.
I don't want to say like neurology, like behavior, as they did when they created and designed the slot machines with the lights, the things, the interrupt, the pattern interrupt. It's designed to do the same thing where you think, well, there's just one more spin. There's just one more. I
Mhm.
know there's just one more thing when I scroll. It's just one more. And so
Mhm.
that's why that social media, the thumb, the thumbing, the scrolling, the scrolling, scrolling, that's why it becomes so addictive. So I blew through my $40 and said, okay, I'm done. That's it.
I'm
Got
out.
$40 worth of not fun. And I will never do it again because it was not fun. I did not like it.
It was not fun. Yeah, I
It's
hear
not
you on
fun.
that.
No.
We love Vegas. We go to Vegas every couple of years just for fun. We actually we came through I guess about 2 months ago, we were in the height of the quarantine, but we were finishing like 14 projects all at once, and we were like, "Road trip."
Yeah,
So we
right.
went to
We're
Vegas.
out.
Yeah, it was pretty nuts though to see how many people weren't there. Like, there were no people
Yeah.
there.
Hmm.
It was
It's
really
sad.
wild.
It's really
Yeah,
sad. Yeah.
yeah, it really is. Well, wow. Is there, anything else on your mind that you would like to share with our listeners before we head
Well,
off here?
there's probably a whole bunch of tips, but I will say, since we're on the 2020 topic, I just recorded, I have a podcast. It's called the Clinical Entrepreneur Podcast. And I just recorded an episode, and it was about how to close out the year 2020. So if you don't mind, I'll
Awesome.
share how to do that. So whenever I had a coach years, many years ago, probably 20 years ago. It was my very first coach, and she taught me this trick, and I have done it faithfully every single year since then. And this is my favorite time of year, the end of the year and the first part of the year, because for me it's a closing of a chapter and opening of a new one.
Love
It's like
that.
a book. And so my life, I'm 58. So my book has 58 chapters. Some of the chapters I don't know much about, but some of the chapters that I'm very intentional about, I know a lot about. And so since I started doing this with this coach, I began writing intentional chapters, each chapter being a year. So at
Oh,
the end
wow.
of the year, there are 5 things that I recommend. And this is all in the podcast. So if you want more detail, you can listen to the podcast. But here they are. Here's 5 things. Number one, the first thing I
I'll
do.
link to that in the show notes too.
Okay. So the number one thing that I do is I always start by writing down a numbers on a piece of paper, number one, number two, number three, number four, and I try and shoot for 50. That's kind of my ideal number. 50 things that I knocked it out of the park in 2020. 50 things.
Awesome.
What did I like? Killed it, home run. Or even if it was something I was scared about doing, like really scared, but I did it anyway. That still is a win for me. Like I got to first base. I still got a little ways to go, but I nailed it. I got to first base on that one. 50 things,
Nice.
shoot for 50 that you just say, good job. Good job, sister. You did it. Good job. Proud of you. So this is your kudo page. 50 things. And sometimes it's hard for us to think of 50 things to like do that self accolade. It's hard. It's hard. But once you get in the habit of doing it, you're going to go, dang, I'm kind of a rock star. I didn't even know I was such a rock star, but I kind of am. So 50
Nice.
things. That's number one. Number two, you're going to write down the next 50 things. Doesn't have to be 50, but the next number of things that you say, yeah, I was not as successful as I wanted to be with these things. For instance, usually what hits that list is self care somewhere in there, right? I
Mm,
didn't take my
yeah.
supplements, or I didn't exercise enough, or I didn't meditate as much as I wanted to, or I didn't go on date
Mm,
nights as often as I wanted, or whatever. So
yeah.
that list, that's number two, is the things that they're not failures. I don't like the word failure. Failure just means that it's an opportunity to learn something. That's all. That's all it is. Not failure. It just gives you a perspective about something that you didn't have before. What works and what doesn't work. That's all.
Yeah.
So I like to make the list of the things that I I know that I need to either get better at, or I'm going to just be okay with the fact that I just don't am not a downhill skier. I don't want to get better downhill skiing, but I went skiing and it was an epic disaster. So that's not a fail. That means I learned something. And what did I learn? Skiing and me do not mix. So that's
That's
I just
awesome.
learned it, right? Just learned it. So the
Okay.
number three then is after you have that written down, you're going to write your closing paragraph in your 2020 chapter of your book. So you're going to write your
Mm.
closing paragraph. And your closing paragraph is something like, Dear 2020, you sucked. Bad. Like, whatever, right? I did not like you. We were not friends this year. We were friends the first half of the year, the first quarter of the year, but the rest of the year has been a bummer. And here's what I didn't like about it, but here's what you taught me.
Mm.
You
There you
see,
go.
we're right.
Yeah.
We're thinking like, okay, yeah, it kind of sucked this year, but here's what I learned. And so think of it like the last paragraph of a chapter that kind of summarizes all the whole year. and you're going to just write that paragraph. Literally write the paragraph. Like not just say it, just I mean write it out. And it might be 3, 4 paragraphs for you. This is like the final epilogue to your 2020 chapter. Now
Love
that
that.
closes that, it just closes it. Emotionally, we close it.
Mm,
Physically, we can get it out of our bodies because we've got it out of the body and onto paper. So now we close that all up. Now we get to turn the page. And what does the top of the page say? 2021.
21.
Woohoo! Now
Yeah.
you're going to start by saying what you want from 2021. So
Mm,
2021 is going to be a year of making very deliberate and conscious decisions about what I'm going to do with my money. Because none of us could have expected the financial, the shutdown and all the stuff that entailed. For
yes.
some impacted them more than others. But whatever it looks like for you. So you write that opening paragraph. So this is your introduction to 2021. And it can include things that you say, well, I think I want to in 2021 remodel my bedroom or have a new this or do whatever it is.
Mm,
So that's your opening paragraph. And then in that paragraph, when you write down all the things that you really want from 2021, you're going to take those. The last step is to take 5 of those things and you're just going to put some action to them. Like, I'm going to remodel my bedroom. Then by February, I'm going to have the decor picked out. By March, I'm going to have the paint picked out. By April, I'm going to have the contractor. You see, we just
nice.
put a little bit of time on it. Not so much that it's like, you're getting all into the minutia, but in that opening paragraph, you're just going to say, here's what I want, here's what it looks like, and here's my projected timeline. Because otherwise, we end up with an opening paragraph that says, I'm going to get fit and I'm going to lose weight and I'm going to change the color of my hair and I'm going to go on vacation. But without any details, those are just empty words.
Sure.
So you write your opening paragraph and then you pick out your 5 things, put some legs to them, some teeth, give it some action. And there you go. And then you can roll right into 2021 and know exactly where you're going to go, at least for the first part of the year.
I love that. That's really
Yeah.
wonderful. I've actually done this practice because you've mentioned this before, but I don't think it was as in a great detail. And I think it was 100 things, not 50. And I remember,
To
I
do
think
that.
last year sitting in my sauna trying to figure out 98, 99, and 100.
Yeah, the list of 100 or the 100 things that are incompletions. 100 incompletions,
Ah,
like a button in a pocket. You put that jacket on, you
yes.
can feel the button in your pocket, and you're like, oh, I really need to sew that button on. That's an incompletion. It's a nagging
Yeah.
thing. Like, I need to call the insurance and
Yeah.
change the coverage. That's an incompletion. We all have them. So that's also a good exercise. Write down those 100 things because you'll start checking those off because it'll bug you. I'm a list checker. So I'm like, oh, I got to get
Yeah,
more
me
of these
too.
things
It
off
did
my.
work, actually. I went
Yeah.
back and checked my list. I was like, wow, I already
Dang,
did all
I'm
this.
doing good. I know, right?
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. Yeah. And it goes back to that self-care and lifting yourself up.
Yes.
And,
Yes.
I know we so badly want to close 2020 on December 31st and celebrate New Year's and ring in 2021 as if it's all going to be different.
I
And
know.
it might not be.
I know. I
It just might
know.
not be, right? So to be able to do these kinds of practices are just so vital and important to our
Mhm.
well-being. Otherwise, we're
Mhm.
going to get lost in the vortex of insanity
Yeah,
that's going
and
to
your
keep going.
your chapter never has an end. That's the thing.
Mm,
Imagine picking up a
mhm,
book and you know that in a book you're going to have chapters. And one
mm,
chapter leads to the next chapter, which leads to the next chapter, which leads to, and there's a progression through the book. And the last chapter is when we end our life on the planet. And that's
mm.
everybody has an ending chapter. It's just how it goes. But
That's true.
those chapters need to have some kind of theme or follow through. How awful would it be to
Mm.
pick up a book and never have chapter 2?
Yeah.
It's like one big long chapter. There's no point at which we say, I draw the line. I'm going to close this thought, this
Mm,
concept of 2020. I'm going to
mhm.
close the concept. I'm going to put a period at the end of the sentence, and I'm going to turn the page, and I get to now start writing it new. Because 2021 will build on 2020, no question. Just
Sure.
like when I'm 59 is I'm 59 because of what happened when I was 58. And I've
Yeah.
learned and I carry that forward. So just think of it like the book of your life. And we just need to close, every year has to close with a period. And then you start the year by saying, this is what I expect. Intention is everything. And that's what you
Yeah.
started at the very beginning. What we think about is what we bring about.
Yep.
And
Yep.
that intention is everything.
Yeah. So with you on that. Thank
Mhm.
you so much. This has just
You're
been so
welcome.
wonderful to have just a sweet organic conversation with you.
You're welcome. I loved it, every minute of it.
Awesome. Awesome. I did too. And so I will post a link to your podcast and to your website on the show notes.
Okay.
Ladies, I'm just so happy to have you listening in on this. And if you know somebody who would benefit from these beautiful words of this beautiful woman, feel free to share this episode. And for those of you seeing this for the first time on Facebook, you are getting it hot off the press. So there, your VIP members get the interviews before our podcast listeners do. So I'm really excited to be able to share this, even though we had a little technical glitch. Awesome, ladies. Have a very blessed day, and we'll see you next time.
Take care. Thank you so much.
Absolutely.